I'm going to try to make this as short as possible, but I seem to speak about this a fair bit. Over the last couple of years, I've worked with a lot of NGOs, global institutions, as well as soil regeneration groups out of the United States, including Kiss the Ground, who are our global partners, in a range that's coming out to essentially restore soil and deal with these issues that we're talking about. I'm not surprised at all by what we've just seen. I've got staffers that work with us who sit on our board who have actually been spied on by Vic Forest, currently in an IBAC investigation, her name's Sarah Reese. The very same person who has actually taken Vic Forest now to court over spying allegations for exposing this type of thing over 10 years ago. So we're dealing with the same problem over and over, and it's the suppression of information. But why is it happening? And before I show you the solutions to what we're actually able to do, even in some of the most polluted areas within the Victorian region, especially in the highland regions of Victoria, it's important to understand why this region is so important. The highland regions of Victoria, especially the Great Forest, and I'll call it the Great Forest National Park, for the sake that it should be a national park, it's the ecological cradle of this state. It's the largest sequester of carbon per hectare in the world, and the largest storer per hectare in the world. It's the source of most of our drinking water, yet they're logging it for cheap paper at an intangible cost to every Victorian. For every acre that they log, and they say, we need to log or you're going to have fines, in actual fact, let's have a look at biology here and have a look at how cycles work. For every time they log, they change the microclimates to what's called a rainforest. When you kill off local rain cycles, which is 40% of inland rain, you create droughts, you create fires, you create ecological hazards, you create runoff. And to answer Colin's question before, why the fish dying? Let me explain this. I went last week to Colin's farm. I had a look. We took some water tests, and holy moly. EC, which is electronic conductivity, which is essentially what these pesticides, herbicides, and heavy metals give off once they run, should be at about 400 ppc, which is essentially normal. We're looking at 2,500 EC, which is basically salt in the water. In some cases, 3,000 EC, with the pH at 4.9. Fish can't live in 4.9 pH. It's acidic. Now, this is running into our waterways all the way through into your drinking water. Do they give a shit? No. Now, let me explain to you why. HVP, Victorian Government, and the pockets of the CFMEU. They protect 80 jobs, 80 loggers at our expense while they destroy our forests. But it gets worse. And this is something that I spoke about and I've been protesting about ever since this Ag Bill came out, the 2020 Ag Bill. The biggest problem that we're going to face, and that farmers are going to face, is not just what's going on around them, it's within their own farms. So what they do is, if they can no longer log the Great Forest, they need more land for the paper, for Australian paper. So they'll poison the peripheral. And then under that act, the APVMA has the authority to now step into your farm and say, that's contaminated, that animal's contaminated, that plant's contaminated, and they can destroy your entire crop yield and cattle at your expense, the farm. What happens there? Farmers are already struggling. If we don't protect farmers in our farming nation, there'll be nothing left of it. There'll be no such thing as intergenerational farming. It'll be centralised. Our waterways will be centralised. And we're at the whim of an incompetent, inept government run by a bunch of bureaucrats who are being paid under the table. Let's call it what it is. I'm tired. I've been doing this for 2 years, these speeches. Falling on deaf ears. It's about time we actually stood firm. And I've been saying from the very beginning, the only way to unite left and right is by finding the middle ground. But this goes way further, goes way deeper into the history. And I'm going to give you a quick rundown, if